You here?
Hi, CK. How you doing? Good evening and welcome to the Poetry of Justice Show with JackieRay Phillips here on YikesRadio.com. Now you know, on Yikes Radio, what we do here on the Poetry of Justice Show is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from arts, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listeners thinking and saying in unison, Yikes! Yikes! Now guys, that is the sultry sounds of my mentor, the Mr. Kevin Nash. Now you know Kevin is the owner of this amazing establishment here at AccelerateRadio.net as well as YikesRadio.com. So I always give homage and respect to Mr. Kevin Nash because were it not for Kevin, a person like me wouldn't be able to do the things that I love to do. So I just always like to put that out there to respect and love and shit. I'm rolling with Kevin Nash. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Shakalaka. Anyway, guys, and I'm also on AccelerateRadio.net, and we just have a good time here. So I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsorship, and that would be Miss Lori Ray Fisher of Gingy Productions and Entertainment Company. My sister's in the house tonight, Miss Lori Ray Fisher. Yeah,
hey guys.
One of the benefactors here on the Poetry of Justice Show. And then I also am going to give love and respect to APS Muscle Cars as well as WMPJ Steelwork. So thank you so much for your contributions and allowing this little train here to keep chugging along. So, I'm going to give a little time tonight, guys, to our Facebook listeners, really. We've got Frida Ross in the house. I've got Derek Harris. I've got Christopher L. Smith. Hello, and hello. Dante, I'm going to give this to you, and we're going to just do our thing. Because, look, this is where to be tonight in the Poetry of Justice Show. So, tonight, everybody, I have some amazing people in the house. I've got rookie to our show who is going to be a star by the time we end here tonight. Yes. And of course, I have my relationship expert. You see, I just dubbed you our relationship expert here at the Poetry of Justice Show. So God, Yahweh has said things that you want, you call it out into existence. That's right. So my relationship and guru expert, Miss Noreen McClendon. How are you tonight?
I'm just fabulous. Thanks for having me.
You really are fabulous.
Yes, you are. I try to be.
Yes, hands down. Success.
Thanks for having me, though.
Of course, you're more than welcome. And then, of course, my queen sister, Miss Lori G. Also Ray Fisher, Miss Lori G. Ray Fisher, but Miss Lori G in the chat.
Yes, I am so excited to be here. Explosive topic tonight.
And then, without further ado, I'm going to give again a proper welcome. We had our shenanigans, but I'm going to give a proper welcome to Miss Lisa Holloway. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic tonight.
Okay.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy for the opportunity, and I'm really excited.
So, Miss Lisa, you have this is just what you do now. This is just your thing, is radio, right?
Yes, and I love it. I love it.
So tell us about the other shows in which you've been on here.
I've been on Michelle Duke's show, Keeping It Real with Mimi, and I've been on Yolanda Davison's show, The Opinionator.
All
and
right.
Those two beautiful women gave me my first opportunity to be on the radio, and I want to give a big thanks to them.
Absolutely.
Love you, ladies.
That's right. Shoot, we gotta give it.
Yes.
We have to give it. Yes. So anyhow, what we're going to be doing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the power of the PUSSY. Yikes. And I got my baby girl in the house. She over here sneaking in. Hi, mamas. I got Aaliyah Bush in the house. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
You doing good?
Yes.
What do you think about this topic, Aaliyah? Because I know Aaliyah gets on me, you guys. She's like my young mama. You know what I mean? She gives me the look. You do give me my look, do you not? See, I told you.
Let you know you're unacceptable.
I know, right. Okay, so this topic,
I think it's a good topic.
What?
It's interesting. Yeah. I remember when you told me, I wasn't like, I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was going to be interesting. I thought it was going to be interesting. A lot of
See?
perspective.
Good.
Okay. Jason Clark is in the house, everybody. Jason. Hi. Okay, Jason. just scoot, maybe scoot by Lolo. Just
There we
real
go.
quick. If you could just get over by Lolo. When you hear the term that tonight we're going to be talking about the power of the PUSSY, where did your mind go?
I was like, man, I picked the perfect night to show and I'm a firm believer in the power of.
That's right.
Said the perfect night.
You got one of our first two male fans.
Oh, what luck you have.
Hold on.
I was like, man, this is awesome.
Should I do that? Christian, darling.
Yeah.
Don't think you're getting up.
Step right on up.
Come on, Christian. Introduce yourself. First, last name. How
My
do you
my
do?
name's Christian Branscombe. I just got out of prison after 25 years.
Yes.
I was serving life without the possibility of parole and was commuted by Governor Brown. So I really
Hallelujah.
shouldn't
God.
Hallelujah.
really shouldn't be
Alright.
out right now.
Yeah, you should.
Hallelujah.
It's 30 days, just a little over 30 days.
Alright.
So it's a pleasure to be here, and it is a great topic and one that I'm very fond of. So please enlighten me. You know, like, keep me involved. Keep me involved in all of that. You know, so I appreciate you.
This is how Yahweh works because this relationship guru here, if you will, I can't. I don't even want to jack it up. Please talk about what it is you do and the applicability to Christian where he is today.
So, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit, Concerned Citizens of South Central Los Angeles. But part of the services that we provide are reentry services. I actually teach in prisons. I teach life skills at California Institution for Women. Been doing that for 7 years. Been doing a group on relationships with men who were formerly serving life sentences at the Francisco homes. I've been doing that almost 7 years. It grew out of a poem that I wrote about a failed relationship with a man who was formerly incarcerated.
Oh.
And the book the poem that I wrote landed me in this weekly. I do have a copy. It's in the car though. Kind of sad. Right outside. Right out front. I will.
Okay.
So I'll make sure somebody gets it. But in any event, I wrote this poem, and the program director said all of the men. I read it at a fundraiser for the organization, and when I read it at the fundraiser, all of the men wanted a copy of the poem because they had never heard the perspective on the other side of having been incarcerated that long and what it's like to be the person on the outside. And so, and I told them, I said, well, I don't want to just give it to you. I'd love to have a conversation, and that's turned into a group every week on relationships for the past 7 years.
That's amazing.
That's the one thing you don't get in prison is good advice on relationships. Or just recently they just started doing
Come on, Christian.
So that's an awesome thing for the guys in prison because that's the one thing you don't get educated in prison is relationships or how to interact with people because they just returned conjugal visits to prison in the last year or two.
Even for lifers?
For LWOPs and lifers. So that's a new thing that just started developing. So having those types of interconnections with people where you're not in stringent environments like a visiting room or something like that is really is where we are deficient. So technology and in relationships especially is where you become deficient in prison. That's definitely a major pitfall for us.
And the beauty is that I also wrote a workbook to go along with the book. And I just started teaching my curriculum on relationships in CIW.
Oh, wow.
I was doing life skills and now I have them doing my workbook. Because everything is relationship.
Yep, it is.
Everything. And whether it's employment, whether it's friendship, whether it's parents, whether it's sibling, it's all relationship. And the principles, sound principles, travel through every one of them, and including with the PUSSY.
God bless me.
He said there is a God.
All of a sudden, I got religious on. I'm sorry. You done brought me to the table.
See, and even make you change God, right?
She said about the sunshine.
Y'all have to get it to
YikesRadio.com. Lisa Holloway, what are you thinking right now? What's on your mind when you hear us talk about the power of people?
Well, I believe in the power of the pussy. That name is really salacious to say that, but my platform is really about a multitude of things besides just the physical pussy. You know, it's like, I feel like what I thought about the platform is I felt like women of color, and that's like indigenous women, Latino women, African American women, Asian women. We are judged so differently from Caucasian women, you know. We're not able to claim our sexuality and be open about it, you know. It's just like, I feel that, you know, that a lot of women of color, you either in the pulpit or the pole. It's like there is no in between. You know what I'm saying? And the World Health Organization said, no matter what you have going on being disabled, because I'm a disabled person, no matter what creed, color, no matter what you are, your sexuality is the basis of you being a human being.
Wow.
You know, and people don't understand how important your sexuality is. And you gotta think about how many people that just maybe we know offhand that has had inappropriate relationships in their home, been molested, been assaulted, and that all takes effect of what kind of sexual being you are. You know, and I feel like with Caucasian women, they can be gay in college, they can screw the whole football team in high school and all that kind of stuff, and then get married and be credible citizens, but we can't do that.
No.
Like, we can't do that at all.
No.
So I feel like the Pussy Chronicles gives women a platform to say how they feel about themselves in a sexual manner and being a sexual being, because your sexuality, it makes you that's my superpower.
All right.
That's how you make things happen.
That's how that happens.
You know they say cash make the coochie go ching ching. Oh my God. Noreen, what are you thinking about that? How you feeling?
You know, I feel like we're certainly we are not given the luxury of being just little girls. We're not given the luxury of just being feminine. We didn't have the freedom. You know, I became a boss in my home and at my place of employment by default because I was left no choice.
Yes.
And all of those things are they're forced on us in ways that most women, like you say, Caucasian women don't suffer that. They don't. They often, and I wouldn't say all of them, but the vast majority have options that we're not given just to be ladies.
Yes.
Like, I would have loved to have been able to just be a lady and take care of my family and sit at home and be Purdy when he got there.
Yes.
Would you?
I would. I would have.
Seriously?
No, seriously, I would have loved the opportunity. I probably would have done some other stuff, but I would have at least loved to have had a choice.
What do you think about that, Lisa?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom for a moment, and that shit is hard work. And I didn't look good, and I was big and overweight, and I was a cheer mom and a PTA mom, and I was driving folks everywhere, and that shit was tiring. But I wanted to do it, and you know, I was glad that I had the opportunity to do it, because it is really good for your family and your kids if someone can stay at home. You know, it really is.
What about you, Kristen? In terms of your upbringing, did you have a more traditional scenario, 1950 beaver cleaver? What do you
Well,
what do you think?
despite my look today, I would say that, you know, I earned my trip to prison, and that was through trauma. You know, so I was sexually molested as a child, and because of that sexual molestation, I identified basically through sexuality. You know, that because I was neglected as a kid, and my first moments of acceptance were through sexual moments. So I identified sexuality as acceptance and being connected to other people. So that led to me being very lascivious and really having that feeling that I really wasn't worth real connections with people. Because as I tried to connect with people, I'd have sex all the time, but anytime I wanted a real relationship, it never developed, or because I was antisocial, those things really didn't, and that makes you kind of feel worthless, you know, long term, you know. So I felt very disconnected growing up, but I was very sexualized, yes.
Got it. What about Noreen, in terms of your story? What do you think when you hear Christian story? Does that?
It resonates. It resonates. It's one of the things early in my book and workbook. I would like to say the thrust of my book is about identifying why you do what you do. So I can honestly tell you, people will say, I want a good relationship. Good is a relative term. Because what looks good to you may not necessarily be good. So what I'm interested in is in healthy relationships, which is totally different necessarily than good. Because we often say what we want, but then we respond to something different. We'll say we want this, but then when we get that, we turn around and we really don't. I don't really want that. Who wants that? And then we go back to what we've been doing. That has never worked. Which is the crazy part.
Well, I think that's the comfortability of it, right?
The familiarity, absolutely.
We're familiar with that. And then I think another aspect that happens is that as humans, we tend to look in other people's backyards. So we tend to say, oh gosh, they look so happy. They look so great. That's what I want, right? But you're not looking at your socialization, your goals, your objectives, who you are as an individual.
Absolutely,
Keeping up with
absolutely.
the Joneses.
And
Absolutely.
you see a lot of so and you see a lot of trauma that doesn't surface you know, in the community. Like, so for example, my mom was forced to have an abortion when she was 15 years old because she was having, you know, sex with one of the neighbor kids, and at that time it was illegal. So she was forced to go down to Mexico, have an illegal abortion, to come back up, and then what ends up happening is that she's really deeply traumatized by that. So she becomes, you know, obviously she's already becoming sexual early at 15, you know, and then when she gets locked in with my dad, you know, like, I'm an unexpected child because they're together to have an intense sexual relationship. He's coming out of a marriage with 3 kids. He doesn't want to have kids. She's escaping her home life to get away from her mother and all of that trauma and the overbearing, you know, alcoholic that she is. And so at that point, she, you know, sexuality is really healing her life too. And then she gets pregnant unexpectedly, but she can't abort me because of the prior abortion and the trauma from that. So that trauma ends up translating it down to me because she doesn't want to have a kid and she doesn't know how to be a mother, and she's suffering through that trauma of not being able to handle another abortion. So even though, so things can look good on the surface, but you really have a lot of things going on because they didn't want to have something socially unacceptable at that time. You know, so to avoid those things, you know, she was deeply traumatized and obviously passed it on through that type of thing. So even when things look good on the surface, sometimes they could be a little askew underneath. You know?
That's true. Thank you so much. Hey, Bobby. How you doing, Mr. Jenkins? Healthy relationship. Shelly C is in the house, everyone. Shelly C. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yay. Thank you for coming, my queen. So, Shelly, now, in terms of, we have a clique. I'm going to just tell you a little bit something, Miss Lisa Holloway. Shelly C is a lady of the chat. Now, the ladies of the chat is they are a series here in the Poetry of Justice show, and those ladies have been airing about 2.5 years now, consistently. So what we do is every third Saturday of the month, we welcome the ladies of the chat, and we talk about an extreme diverse of craziness. But there are these 4 characters, and all those ladies, we've been great gal friends for 30 plus years now. Raised our children together, weddings, and life's hiccups, and all that jazz together. So we come together.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, all that fun
I was gonna say that, but I was like, oh, it might incriminate
So if anybody, so there's like 4 of us, and we all have our personalities.
Yes.
The one who is the most fanatical about the vajayjay
Okay.
fanatical.
would be
With
Shelly
a capital F.
friggin'
We're starting to like you more already.
always trying to know, make sure everything coochie is strizzy. Yeah, it should be.
I do.
When we go on trips, this one here is in the bathroom, and she's like, God damn, do you have skin left?
Girl. Did you bring some bleach?
Yeah.
Because if the
Ain't
vagina
nobody
ain't
even doing no banging. Ain't nobody even doing no banging up in here. But still, you not, girl, you just don't know.
well,
Stay
we all
ready,
know
you
if
ain't
the
gotta get
vagina
ready.
isn't not happy, then I'm not happy. So
No. There's no way
we
to
gotta
be.
be straight down there. We got problems. Everybody is gonna have problems. So
This is the God honest truth. We have missed dinner dates and fun shits because of her and this fanatical bullshit. Am I right?
I've even looked for V-Spas. We got a
I know.
V-Spa day coming up.
See?
V-Spa.
That is so
And
wonderful.
marinating the coochie. All of that.
Mine is organic.
How-
Mine is organic. Mine drinks Fiji water, it's pineapple, lavender, and coconut oil baths.
YikesRadio.com.
Mine makes your beard grow flowers.
Wow.
It looks like a flower. How about that? Like a rose?
You know you
I love it. I'm like, name that thing. You love it. Talk to it. Name it. That's what you
It's
massage
organic.
it.
It's organic.
So you're not playing shit.
Take
If it's not happy, I am not happy.
That's right.
I am not happy.
Yeah.
So we're
Nobody
talking
wants
about
to
those
say
healthy relationships, Noreen. So we've got to work on the healthy relationships with the
yes.
and making sure everybody alright.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You concur?
Oh, I concur. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you ever had any challenges, you know there is nothing good if that ain't good.
No.
Nothing good.
No.
Nothing.
No.
You know, had a baby, everything ain't no.
Yeah.
You know.
Aroma, everything.
You know everything.
Everything.
Yeah, no, it's
Yes.
something else.
Everything.
It's something else.
This one here, not too long ago, talking about some the tightening up and the firming and the
Yes.
skin ain't the same when you do this. I'm
You
like,
gotta do your
no.
kegels. You gotta do your kegels, girl.
And the Benoit ball.
And
I'm
the
like,
big
Cheryl.
ball.
And then
You
that
just gotta
little
keep them up
thing.
there.
Yeah.
Whatever you gotta do to keep them up there, you gotta keep them up there.
So when you hear this banter, how does this relate, Lisa, to the Pussy Chronicle?
Well, how it relates to the Pussy Chronicles, what I like here is that it's like I'm 5 black African American women here, and we're actually talking about it. I know people's like, oh my God, how could you
I'm
say
one of those
pussy? How could you, oh my God, how could you say that? And you gotta look in the climate that we are in today. The president grabs someone's pussy. People are marching with pussy hats on. So it is time for the pussy cry. It's time, let the pussy go. Let it go.
Free it.
And also, you know, like I said, Pussy Chronicles also is indicative of the power of women. It is so many women that have changed the game that don't get any platform for it. You know, nobody talks about them. Nobody says anything about them. It's women in art. It's in all kind of creative endeavors that are making things happen. And it's our moment. Like right now is a moment for us right now. Even though it's chaotic, beautiful creativity comes out of chaos. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a woman's moment at this time.
What do you think about that, Mr.?
I think it's very powerful, and I think it's true. I think it'll only benefit us if we recognize it, though, and if we seize it. We have to seize the moment. We have to believe in ourselves enough and understand the power
Yes.
that we have. One of the things I learned is that we often try to exert power, masculine power, when the reality is we have a power that's feminine, that's way more potent. And if we're also not good at masculine power, we can do those things. We can function from there. But where we're most effective is in the power, the feminine power that we were given. That was a divine thing that was given to us that we push it to the side because we wanted quote unquote equality. Let me tell you something. We don't need to be equal. We got our own thing.
I have a question. So, that right gentleman that fits every criterion of what we learned in Hurt People Highway, would you relinquish the power of the Juanita Tate legacy? Would you relinquish all of that to go away and just be his wife? And all you care about
Midnight
is just
train to
getting
Georgia.
up,
The midnight train to
Yes.
Georgia.
No,
Yes.
dead ass.
Yes, straight up.
gone,
Straight up.
deuces.
Straight up. And you know why? Because, and you know
Look at
why?
Shelley.
Because, and the reason is that particular man would never require me to leave anything that I am.
Right.
He would never require it. He may need me by his side, but he's never going to require me to become somebody else or to walk away from what I love or to walk away from what my mother built. He's never going to require that of me. Now, on the other hand, it would take some adjustments. You know, all the times that people get to call me at 10 o'clock at night and just want to, you know, they need me for something, they may have to wait till business hours. Because I got a man.
Business hours are from
And
9
you know, y'all know,
to 5. You
y'all-
gonna be like Big Red?
Big Red. Big Red right there. I got Big Red right here.
Yikes Radio.
Yikes Radio. And my office hours, okay? Because my man said, okay, right?
Yeah.
Now, but again, I don't have to relinquish the power that I have, though.
In order to do that.
In order to do that, I don't. I don't have to give up anything for him to be in control.
You don't think you'd be in a situation where he's telling you when you can go pee. He's telling you when you can eat.
No.
Are we talking
But
about R. Kelly?
every
Are we talking about R. Kelly? Wait,
Ooh.
where are we going
Are we
with this?
talking about the right kind of eating or the wrong kind of eating?
Okay.
What side are we on now?
What are we eating? That's what's important to know.
Say go to the back.
Caller.
Caller, you say what? Save us from ourselves, caller.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Hoyt. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Why is it crazy?
Yeah, you said
Why is it crazy?
It's the truth, though.
Shelly,
It's the truth.
It's powerful.
Shelly.
I learned it from my daughter. My daughter said, how is it that my son, she has tried
Shut up.
for years
Shut the hell up.
to change his diet, tell him to eat healthy, you know, you don't need to eat all this junk and everything. And she said, I've been telling him this for 5 years. She come along 2 months. She said the power of the pea.
Yep.
The power of the pea.
Yep.
Tell him, Jazz.
All them times I told my son, stop spending his money at the convenience store, you know, buy a case of juice or whatever. Child, my daughter-in-law came into his life. His credit score went up way high.
That's right.
Look, things I had been telling him. She ain't told him nothing. I ain't told him. But guess what? Thank you. Thank you.
You know, and I want to touch.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something you said about being feminine. It's just like a lot of women of color, we have to take on taking care of the home, being the head of the home, and we don't get that moment to be feminine and to be in ourselves. And I'm like kind of an old-fashioned person. I think I will flirt with a man, but I want the man to come to
Hello.
me.
Exactly.
Because
Hello.
men are natural predators.
Hunters.
And when they're
Hunters.
hunters, and when they want you, they will come for
They
you.
will come get you.
They will come get you.
You don't have to
and
do
that's
nothing.
what I believe. Come get me.
That's right. That's a
Power of the
fact.
pea.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Let's ask our male audience here.
Christian God.
Do you like hunting or do you want to be
You just want to
hunted?
just throw the pussy at you.
I like them to throw it at me, and I like to play with it. I like to take my time with it. There's different times for different things at any given moment. You know, there's no one way. You can't come to the altar one way. You know what I mean? There's different forms of service here. You know, you get depends on the mood, the time of day. You know, all of these things matter. You know what I mean? You can't just be in one place at one time. You know?
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. That's right. I always want the nut, but we're going to take our time getting there. You know what I mean? I'll definitely take our time getting there.
Yikes!
Woo, I gotta take my sweatshirt off.
Oh my.
What you gotta do, Shelly?
I had to take my sweatshirt off.
You thought about that right track, Jason. I know what you like. No, you do.
I said Jason's pretty quiet down there.
You're not off the hook. Just because Lori's on this chopper retreat.
Jason's in a relationship, so he's being very.
He's only out 30 days.
But like, I have to agree with Chris, hunter-gatherer and throwing it at me, it's all completely relevant. And that's one of the things I think my current relationship with Lori, not this Lori, the other Lori.
I was getting ready to say, well, wait a minute. Ain't nobody told me nothing. Nobody told me nothing.
We have a very active and very connected and very just really a very connected and relationship, and we're always willing to. Our biggest concern is to please the other person, and when you're both working at that, it changes the game incredibly.
Yes,
Yes, it does.
yes. We're having a hoot today.
Woo, got out of that one.
What we got going on? Let's see. Hi, Carla. Carla's here. Carla Green Sutherland. She's tuned in.
Hi, Carla. How are you?
Yes.
Love you.
Tell Carla we said hello, please, Miss Sophia. Thank you so much. So, here we go, guys. So I know we're here to talk about your latest project.
Yes.
The Pussy Chronicles. But I would like to give our listeners some history and take them back to the beginning of your story, Lisa.
Okay.
Tell us, how does your story begin?
Well, my name is Lisa Holloway. I'm a California native, born and bred in South Central and parts of South Orange County and a whole bunch of places in between. That's where I know Carla from. We were the real black girls of South Orange County.
That's right.
And I mention those two places because they're such polar opposites, and they really make me who I am today, And like I said, I love South Central. I'm a general, Washington High School general. I'm proud of that, and I'm a Bruin, so I'm proud of that as well. I love LA. I grew up in LA, parts of Orange. I kind of moved around a lot. And I went to college right after high school, but of course I just majored in men and smoking weed, so I didn't do very well there.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that name.
I do too. Wait, when did that come along?
Yeah.
I need to sign up.
I know, right?
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk to the curriculum department.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go to UCLA.
So,
Well, they
after
gotta get it at USC then.
yeah, after I got out of, after I didn't finish college at that moment in my life, I met a man, got married, was all in love.
Did you know? I'm sorry, we're gonna go on a little ride tonight. You never
Okay.
been on a ride like this.
Okay.
Exactly. Boom. Did you know the power of the pussy at that moment? The first dude.
No,
This
no,
man right here.
that was the problem.
Did you
No,
know?
I didn't
I didn't ask
There's
none
no
of
way.
y'all.
We already know she did.
No, I
It's
didn't.
impossible.
No, I didn't know.
I'm straight real. That day, did you know?
No.
Boom,
No. I think women get like that.
We didn't know.
until they
That's
get
the
up in age.
problem.
You gotta live. You gotta
You
live.
gotta live. You gotta be
Yeah.
experienced.
Do you know what you got you sitting on?
Hell yeah.
You know?
Well, that's good. See, I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's a new generation, y'all.
That's something I learned growing up. Not growing up. That's wrong. But as I got older, my mom and my grandma always told me, like, yo, don't ever give up what you got unless it's something better on the other side. Like, know yourself.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying, just knowing the power, what you have inside, because I feel like sex, when you do an intimate situation in sex, people are like, it's just sex, but your souls are touching.
Yeah.
Your souls are touching when you
And
have
they are
sex.
taking a part of you.
Yes,
Giving up some of you, and you think they're
and
taking
you're
a part. That's why you
sharing
just don't give it to
everything that
anybody.
they have been with.
All of that DNA on backup.
Yes.
Right.
Pituitary.
You know,
Right.
the petri
Pituitary.
dish. You know, the petri dish.
Ooh, wee.
Yikes radio.
Yikes.
I'm just gonna be quiet.
Anybody say,
I don't think there's room for experimentation. Yeah, I need in on this one.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm not
go
gonna say
ahead, say it.
I just think that, like, sometimes it's not me. Well, I think, okay. Sometimes I just want to fuck just like
Now
that.
we're getting what I'm talking about. Now we're getting what I'm talking about.
That's right.
That's
It's not like my soul is touching you.
No.
We don't need, yeah.
I
wanna
want
get
your
one
soul.
off right
Your soul is touching you.
Yeah.
Your soul is touching you,
There
but
we
like
go.
I said, at this point,
depends.
you just want to fuck.
It
You just
depends.
wanna have sex.
It
So,
depends.
so out of curiosity, right? So you don't think that there's a time where women need to experiment and kind of like, because I find that women do that anyway. It's just not socially acceptable, right? And so if there isn't a way for them to do that with their dignity, then it becomes something that's hidden, and then they're not educated in the process, right? So don't you think that there's a time? I mean, men do it. Women should be able to do that too. And realistically, we do it anyway. So shouldn't it be something that's acceptable and that we process out loud?
Now we going back to
Our
something
relationship
that we
guru.
talked about when I was here the last time.
Okay.
And that is the frequency. How
I
often
thought you were gonna say
the
frequency. I was like,
frequency
oh.
with
Ah.
which
Let's do the
we
frequency.
just hitting and quitting.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So it's
I
okay.
need it.
Listen, I told y'all. I told y'all when I was here
Lori.
before. I did a hit and quit.
I do.
I ain't
Lori.
scared. Listen,
Yes,
I ain't ashamed
Okay.
of it.
No, don't be.
I have
Okay,
seen.
wait,
I
time
have.
out. I need a definition.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
clear.
No,
I need a clear definition.
So
That's a clear
when you
definition.
say
White man.
when you say
Uh-huh.
you just want to fuck,
Right.
I just want to fuck today.
Right.
That's
Okay.
and you pick the person, whoever that is, and you
Scratch
don't
the
have to
itch.
be giving them your
Scratch
soul,
the itch.
and you ain't
And the
requiring
party,
their
you get all
soul.
that.
But-
No,
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Then
You're right.
it is possible for me to identify JoJo.
Mhm.
And I want to repeatedly, my mom is probably just dying right now.
Thank goodness she gone.
I said the
She
F
don't have
word.
to. Yeah, but it's okay.
I'm not
It's
going to
okay.
say the F word again. But I could pick JoJo and just like every Thursday, that's what I want to do.
Well, let me just
Because
tell you.
JoJo got it
If-
going on.
this
if
is the
your
thing.
mind
One
is right.
timer.
This is the thing.
your mind is
this
right.
This is the thing. This is the thing about that once a week with JoJo,
Yeah,
Okay.
once a week.
because
Isn't it?
it does involve something that is so intimate.
Yes.
Eventually, either you or JoJo gonna want more.
So
Eventually,
that.
one of
I
y'all.
agree with that.
Eventually,
Somebody
one of y'all
else
want
wants
more.
And that's when it
Christian-
terminates.
Yes.
And that
That's
and
when it terminates.
Yeah.
But
Every-
Because
If it's any
JoJo, I
good,
don't
you
want to
don't
talk
want
about my feelings.
well, see,
I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't care how work
and
goes.
now JoJo's concerned about the fact that who else you might be hitting and quitting. And now JoJo, now see, because it was okay with JoJo long as he was able to have that flexibility.
But when
the
you
idea
get the
that
flexibility,
Yeah.
your ass gonna have some flexibility.
And
Oh,
I
no.
Yeah,
Now
I also
JoJo
think-
got a problem.
I also
JoJo.
think that you're not gonna have a problem with JoJo. You okay with the every Thursday hitting it as long as you got something else that you can hit. Once it's just you two, one of you is gonna have a problem.
Well, and ultimately, if you doing it that regularly, trust me, it's not gonna be a whole lot of time to fit somebody else in there.
No, it's not.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's just
not
Thursday.
It's
It's just Thursday. It's only
That
Thursday.
is.
It's just Thursday, but it's every Thursday, Dante. It's
Thursday.
every
Not
Thursday,
Wednesday, not
and that
Wednesday.
become an obligation. And
An obligation.
it be yes.
That's what I
You
said,
know, y'all
somebody
start
get a
paying for
problem.
that.
But then, if it becomes
Because
an
guess what?
obligation, it's not fun no more.
Because
Somebody
guess
has
what?
a problem.
And guess what? And when JoJo say, the first
You gotta
time
jump in.
JoJo
You
tell
gotta
you
jump
on
in.
Thursday, I ain't available, you got an attitude.
Oh, no. Well, let me just be quiet. No. I mean,
Okay, that's
because I
a
think
month
you
or
have
two
to lay
in.
out, no, you have to lay out the rules of engagement. And what I think
We had this
sometimes
conversation.
for women is that we do not exert our power to be able to say, just like men lay out their rules of engagement. They're not verbal. They're very passive, but
Yes.
through behaviors and action,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes.
you don't want me calling you, texting you,
Yes.
blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But then we can have our rules of engagement
Too.
too.
That's right.
I'm in total opposition to the we not laying it out there verbally and not that non-verbal communicate. No, we gotta explain what if it to me, and I say this in the book. If it's not defined, it's nothing.
Wow.
So-
If we don't, even if the definition is we just sexual partners, it's a definition.
Yes.
We know what this is. But
That's
if we
right.
don't have a definition for it, it's nothing. And you better not put nothing on it. You know how they say put that on my mama? You better not put nothing
Wow.
on none of it. Because it has no definition.
All right, you're scaring me right now.
Yeah.
Slow down.
He said he wants me to slow down.
Slow
He
down.
said,
Slow down. I need
We was
to.
going good.
It was in the mountaintop. Now we're going to the valley. I need to bump the brakes for just a second. Just a second.
So let me jump in here real quick. So I learned a couple weeks ago, a guy was talking about we need to be careful what we call things, right? Because we're calling something.
There they
We were
go.
talking about the prison system, and it was a broken system. It's not. It's built the way it's supposed to work. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do: keep people oppressed and down. But when you said a man, this passive aggressive behavior. No, a man is willing to have that conversation about our wants and needs and our boundaries. What you're dealing with is not a man, it's still a boy.
A boy.
Somebody that's not
Man's
mature.
correct.
That's
Yeah.
not
Man's
emotionally
correct.
mature,
So
not-
that gets back to
Right.
that gets back to what I wanted to ask, right? Which is, if you're would you consider it mature or immature for somebody to pitch at you like that? Like, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing. I got Thursdays, you want to just lay this thing down and handle some business.
I'm so
now,
okay with
I'm
that.
really good at
I'm so
massages.
okay
You
with
can
it.
stop
I'm
whenever
so
you
okay
want.
with that.
okay
You
with
know
it.
what I mean?
I'm
It's,
cool
Thursdays
with
are
it.
Too much
open.
for me.
I'm
You know what I mean?
so okay with that.
Massages.
Shelly said no.
They're okay on Thursday,
Did you
right?
know-
I'm okay with
I'm
the
okay.
fact that he is coming out and saying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we
But
have
you're just
people
not willing
who
to
do not
participate.
say that. You
Right.
need
Yeah.
to
But would
say
that
what
be?
you want.
I think the dudes would be like, see, I would say something like that, right? But I think a lot of dudes wouldn't, because they're thinking, oh man, she's gonna
Oh,
judge me
absolutely.
for that, or she's gonna put me down, or say that I'm just being scandalous. When really, that's what both of you want, right?
Yeah.
But
So
is it
then
cool
why-
for and a lot of chicks
Yeah.
wouldn't accept it because they're like, I don't want to come across like this or like that. When really, that's the terms of engagement, right? And that's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. So that it would be nice to see that be more of a realistic.
I would love to see that be more frequent. I would love for people to actually come out
Yeah.
and say
Say
what
what
it
you
is that's
want.
on their mind and say what they want. I've done that, but guess when I did it? When I didn't understand the power of the pussy. I did that. I
Confusion.
did it when
You
I
did the
did
rules
not.
of engagement
I,
and you didn't
yes,
understand?
yes, I did, and also was very aggressive in the sense that I saw a guy. I said, I'm gonna do him.
Did you?
I sure did, and I did too.
Wow.
Did him well.
Bless your heart.
Did him well. But the reality is that what I didn't understand about myself, even at that time, I'm talking 19 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
In fact, younger than that, 18. What I didn't understand about myself is that I didn't just want him just for his body. That's what I didn't know at the time.
That part.
That was the part
Did he have a six-pack,
I didn't.
though?
I didn't.
But did he have a six-pack?
He did.
Damn.
He
Like
did.
1, 2, 3, 4,
He
5,
did it.
How-
Nice,
how?
nice.
Right down
Just
to
everything
that
about
part
him. Just
where you
every
be
listen.
like-
And he was
Video, you
fly.
Where it speak like this, like
And he was
right
fly, Jackie Ray. He was fly. He was fly. He's still fly.
there.
All these
That
years
little
later.
cut right there.
But this the thing. Yeah, that nice little
Cut
He
right
had all
there,
that.
yeah.
He had it going on. And guess what? But I didn't understand myself enough to understand that I wanted more from him than just that.
What did you want?
I wanted him. I wanted a relationship with him. Now, mind you,
But you
I'm
didn't
a
tell him.
teenager. And
Okay,
see,
now
this
18,
was,
18,
I was
18,
18, right? But I came, my mother was the kind who told me, she said, look, she told me this at 12 years old. I was a virgin until I was 17. She told me at 12, I don't even know what she's talking about. She said, look, you just make sure you only have sex with the men you want to have sex with. So that when they standing on the corner saying, I had her, you could turn around and say, no, I had you.
That's right.
So that was the mentality that I came up with, right? So when I saw somebody that I wanted, I just went for it.
Okay.
Not understanding that there was more to it than that, and that I still, underneath of it all, was a woman that still wanted to be respected, protected, cared for, loved.
Yes.
I wanted all of those things, but because I was aggressive, and as the term just had a friendly pussy, I was friendly with mine.
Yikes radio.
Okay.
Yikes radio.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah,
break that down?
well,
That's
it was
nice.
friendly.
That's
No, it was very. I was
exactly
friendly with
Is a
mine.
friendly.
The one
Yeah,
that's
it is
friendly.
a
It was a friendly
It meets
person.
lots of people.
Met a lot of people.
Oh,
met
oh,
lots
yeah,
of people.
sure.
Yeah, but
But let me tell you something. I didn't do that in a vacuum. It wasn't. In those instances, it was not forced on me. I have been raped. I was molested as a kid. I've had those experiences too. But in those instances, I was taking charge. And I thought that was okay. But when I peeled the layers back on it years later, and I wondered why they married that woman, but they would hang out with me. I wondered why they wouldn't commit to me.
Pussy was too friendly.
It was too friendly,
But you
right?
know what? I want to say something that you were what men want, and men when they get married, they be with who they need.
Yes.
And there's a big difference. Like
Oh, yeah.
like right now, I want to be wanted. I don't
Yes,
want to be
be
needed.
needed. Yes,
I don't
yes.
want to. And like my ex, he worked for the Pussy Factory. He worked for Playboy, and he worked in the entertainment industry. We were always We were a young couple. We were always surrounded by big titties, fake titties, thongs. I mean, sex. The playmates would send me dildos, all kind of stuff. And at that point in my life,
I left over.
no,
Oh,
girl.
okay. Just a thought. But anyway, I'm
It's
sorry.
right.
Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is like
Hilarious.
how that
Hilarious.
shaped my life as a sexual being. It's like I really didn't understand being in that world and how people have fetishes. Like, you know, some people like kinks. I know they like, damn, she on a walker. I want to have sex with her. And I got Parkinson's. She's shaking. That's some freaky shit. And so I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it because there's some people that like little people.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you say
You got commentary.
define little people, what you mean?
One second, clown.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't you do it.
You know, a little person.
Okay.
No, real actual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
An actual little
Hold on one
person.
second, Lisa. Somebody want to
Person,
comment?
yes.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to see what she was saying, yeah.
Roderick Hoyd said, you know, I wish I could come up with an antidote to stop pussy power, but pussy is so good.
Oh, wow.
You can't have both now. You can't have both.
No.
You can't have both.
He admires though. He admires. I appreciate his admiration.
It's so good. I appreciate it too. He's funny.
Lord,
You can't have both now, right?
No.
I ain't giving it up. Shelly ain't giving up all of it.
You can't have both.
Okay, so Pussy Chronicles, you're 19. Well, no, you're with your first husband.
Yeah. He worked for Playboy. He was a director's assistant. Our life was very Hollywood. So we were always around people that were sexual, that were very sexy. And at that time, I was heavier. And he was very thin, very tall, very handsome, fly. And women were always up in his face. And I had to deal with his lifestyle, because his lifestyle was he went out for his job. So he was always around other women. And I had to deal with that. So it makes me kind of, right now, it's like I'm really cool with men because I get it, because I was always around a lot of men. We were the only married couple. Like, most of our friends weren't married. My husband, he went to Westchester High School. All his friends were very handsome, gentlemanly, and they had bitches. So I had to deal with that.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to deal with that.
Shelly.
I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part of the whole lifestyle.
Yes.
That's
yes.
just the way it goes.
And
That's
that was
the way it goes. And I
before
had
the
to-
recognition of the
Yeah,
power
that
of
was
the
before
feet.
I didn't recognize my power. I was in this very overly sexualized world, and I had to roll with it. You know what
Okay,
I'm
so let
saying?
me just ask a question.
Okay.
You had to roll with it. Why?
No, I didn't have to roll with it. I rolled with it because I was in it.
You chose to.
But
know
you,
what I'm saying?
you
I
liked
chose-
being in it? Or
Yeah,
you didn't
because
like being in it?
I loved being in it. I actually managed artists in the music industry. You know, it was my lifestyle. But I'm just saying how being a young woman in that world, how that affected me at the time. You know, for me, I realized after I got out of my marriage and I started seeing other men that I was kind of immature sexually. I was, because being around all that sex all the time kind of made me like,
I'm thinking about the Dirk Diggler film.
the Dirk Dick. I love that movie.
I figured you would.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Wait a minute. What is that one?
It's
a porno movie.
It's about the porno industry. That's one of my favorite movies.
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights, yes.
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights with Mark Wahlberg.
Little
Ooh.
skank, wank, jank,
Who?
thing, stuff hanging down. Like, shit.
Mark Wahlberg?
She's having a
I
moment.
love
She-
I like it.
Like that. I don't know, when you're talking, my mind be going to down to the boogie nights. Come on.
But yeah, you know,
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Okay.
You gotta know.
I feel it.
I feel it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know,
She's just doing happy dance.
it is wild. I love the atmosphere. So, you know, dealing with that kind of stuff and your sexuality, you know, I always had to keep myself together. I loved being in that world with him, but as you look back, you realize what effect it has on you. You know what I'm saying? Because it eventually made me, like, I was around so much sexual stuff, it eventually turned me into grandma. You know, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm only gonna give you head on your birthday. You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Just too overload.
Yeah, it was overload. It was
Too much for you
overstimulation.
at that
It was too
time,
much.
yeah.
You know, it
Yeah,
was
you
too
can have a
much.
ribeye every day, and then you don't want a ribeye.
No,
Christian,
there's a-
somebody. Head.
There's a,
So,
Came up to
there's-
the mic
there's,
quick.
guys that watch too much porn. They start developing, they call it, a type of impotency.
Yes.
Yeah, sexual impotency because they watch too much porn and the reality can't live up to the fantasy that they've developed.
Absolutely.
So being around that environment so much, it
I
did
know that.
take
I
like an
know.
emotional
And the instant
or mental
gratification.
toll on you.
It did.
you don't have
Kind of
to
messed
satiate
up
anybody
everything
else
on
in
the
the
normal,
process.
on
You know,
what
it becomes like
would be a normal level, because it's operating up so high all the time, you can't really deal with it. Yeah, there's I forget what's, but it's really a male impotency from guys that watch way too much porn. They can't get off normally.
Yep.
Yeah, they cannot.
Noreen,
So
get
talk
off
about
the porn.
Jackie looked disturbed.
Tell us about that part of the book.
Okay,
The
so
hand and the pussy.
yes,
The hand and the pussy.
so
Lori
so-
Ray, I want you to listen to this.
So-
Christian,
so what I discovered in talking to men who had served a lot of time in prison, as well as some that didn't serve a lot of time, is that a lot of men come home with impotence from prison, and part of the reason is because they spend a lot of time masturbating, whether it's for stress relief or whether it is for sexual gratification, and the walls of the vagina are never going to be as strong as a man's hand. And so you can't
really
compete.
Yeah,
And
it does get
That is deep.
desensitized.
it gets desensitized, and then there was also the psychological aspect. Some men decided that Lori said, "Time out."
hold on, you need to hold
So
on.
I can't. I
the,
can't.
the penis gets desensitized to the level of friction.
It requires
It
more
does.
friction
It
because the
requires
hand is stronger and provides more friction than the walls of the vagina, no matter how many Kegels we do.
Yeah.
And
But it
look,
doesn't create
Well,
impotence,
damn,
it
that
just creates a
explains
longer.
it.
yes, no, seriously, yeah, for real. Yeah,
It just prolongs the ride. That's what it does. It don't stop the ride. It prolongs the ride. All right.
Right, you
The
just
train
make it-
is leaving,
it's
and it's
leaving the
going
station.
somewhere. It's just going a little slower than it was before. That's all.
You make that. That's right.
You
That's
know,
exactly. No,
it's showing
seriously.
up for the party. All
Not
right.
for real.
I
Eventually,
didn't
it's
know
gonna
that.
show up. No, for real.
It's a problem.
No,
You know,
yes.
it's a problem.
Yes.
So, and they do masturbate a lot in prison because there's no
Yes.
other way to satisfy yourself, and
Mhm.
it does become almost like like a narcotic sometimes. I've seen
Yes.
guys over abuse it, or like they get going on that too much, but. I think that happens in the free world just as much as it does out here.
It does, and I said that too because I had a friend back home in Philly who told me he was a chronic masturbator and that he had that as a challenge because he masturbated so much. It was very difficult for him to actually receive or reach orgasm in a vagina. It was very difficult
Really?
for him.
Well, see,
It
to me, a lot
was-
of the visual and the sound, like that stuff affects me.
This
So,
is too much
like
for me.
even without all the, just getting excited is gonna fire me up. So, those things are added things in there. I think that sometimes should be considered in there too. If they're not getting fired up or whatever. I don't know. I don't know where they're.
than 3 times a week.
No, that's
Okay.
it. That's
No more.
it.
Is that
No
the
more than 3
surgeon
times a week.
If you
general?
go over
Yeah.
3 times, you're getting
Is that
your
the
head into
baseline?
other
That's the
places.
limit.
Ah.
That's the baseline.
Okay.
You can't
So
do
it can't just be Thursday. We got to get Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Let me add one thing to that.
I'm so disturbed
a
right now.
minimum of once a week just for
So
health.
disturbed.
For health, right?
Yes.
For good well-being.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
now back to her point
We
about
lost
being in
today.
lascivious environments, right, where you're in an overly sexualized environment. Some of my family were swingers, and I grew up around that type of environment. And there's a sexual education that comes along with that. And I found that a lot of the women that were actually in this environment ended up doing exactly what she was talking about. They become overstimulated, and a lot of them don't draw to it as much as the men do, because they just see a pattern and they don't really find the gratification in it that they did in the beginning. But that's through the experience of it, right? And that goes back to what I was saying about, I think that we all need to have those experiences because then you find out the answers to those things. Like a lot of times people see it as a negative experience or something that isn't, oh, it didn't work out, so I shouldn't have done it. No. You should have done it because now you know. Now you're educated. Now you know, that's definitely not something I want to do.
Yeah,
And that ain't working for me, so I need the massage and the whatever, the polish or whatever you want on that thing. You know what I mean? So
find out what you don't want.
yeah, and, but if you don't go through that, it's not a failure is what I'm saying. And a lot of
Right.
people put it in that context like, oh, I was doing this, I failed. It's not a failure, it's a success because now you know what you want.
Indeed.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yikes radio. Oh, guys, we got about 5 minutes before break time. Wow.
Well, I need a cigarette.
Are you having a good time tonight, Miss Lisa?
I'm having a wonderful time. I love this.
Yes.
This is amazing. It's beautiful.
So, Pussy Chronicles. Tell our listeners, what is it?
Pussy Chronicles is a show that I wrote. It's a platform for women of color. I actually got it from a friend of mine, Tamika Drew. She had pissed off pussy. She was a feminist and she was really pissed off. She had mad pussy. And you know,
I was friendly. Hers was
she
mad.
really taught
Okay,
me
I'm
about
getting it now. I'm
patriarchy
getting it now.
and you know, just how a woman sees herself in this world. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe your femininity is everything and your pussy is power. It's like I look at Georgia O'Keeffe, who is a famous artist. She's passed away, but she painted all the flowers. All her flowers look like vaginas. You know what I'm saying? It's just she and Frida Kahlo, which is my spirit animal. She was disabled and a freak. She was the bomb, and she owned her sexuality no matter what. She had a club. She had a her leg, a club foot. Her leg was amputated, and she was one of the most sexiest, intelligent, and creative women ever to walk the face of this earth. And that's what Pussy Chronicles is about: power, beauty, creativity, and talking about some powerful pussy.
Yikes Radio.com to the 25th power. Dante, why are we looking like on time, boobs? Okay, so we got 3 minutes, guys. So we can just chop it up a little bit because what we're going to do is when we come back from the segment, we have way more detailed questions that we're going to go into with you, Lisa, if that's okay.
That's fine.
And we're just going to have fun. Are you having a good time?
I'm having a fantastic time.
What about you, Noreen?
Having a ball.
Miss Shelley C?
I'm having a ball.
Lori G?
Yes, most
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, because it's going to be wild. You
Education.
guys thought it was wild before. We're going to
It is educational.
Oh, wow.
Christian's been out 30 days.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't think he would rather
We're
be
gonna call
anywhere
this the
else.
G-spot in this thing. 'Cause this right here is gonna G out the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Don't
Christian.
get me fired up in this game.
That's it.
He would rather not be anywhere else. But
No, believe me, this is the best pass I've ever had today. Just read about this wonderfulness. And
There we go. Absolutely. Absolutely. You having a good time, Shelley C?
I am.
I know. Were you a little nervous about the topic?
I was. I was like, where we going with
You
this?
having a good
Okay.
time,
you came in
Peaches?
prepared, we know
Look,
that.
Miss Felicia Newton's in the house. She's like very interested in
Hey,
peaches. I
Peaches.
know, but I ain't gonna even say nothing.
I think
But
I was too
The
stupid to be
peaches, some
nervous.
peaches.
I was too stupid to
I
be
know.
nervous, I think.
I know.
She contacted me. I said, well, what's the topic? She said, Pussy Chronicles. I never said nothing back, did I?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I know.
and she-
I know you ain't.
I said, what's the topic? And she told me that. I said, well, I got one, so I figured I might know something about it. And there it is. But that was it. Right? It never occurred to me to be scared. I should
We're
have,
having
huh?
a wild
I
time
shoulda.
tonight.
Yeah, maybe
Okay,
next
well,
time.
okay,
Next time.
52 more minutes. I'm sorry, guys. I know Peaches. I already know about that peach cobbler. I know. I know. I heard.
Uh-oh.
Stuff be
Gotta
happening.
Stuff does happen.
What about you, Leah?
I'm having a good time.
You having a good
I always
time?
have a good time. I have questions though. I have
Okay,
some
go ahead.
questions.
Okay.
Go for it. Just take us out.
Well, you know, what's your take on? Oh, let's do this. What's your take on pussy power and women getting what they want in the bedroom? Because I feel like a lot of women, especially my age, don't ask for what they want.
Oh,
I don't play that because if I'm having sex
Yeah.
with you, I'm gonna get what I want.
Exactly.
But what's your advice to people
My
age?
advice to people your age, I would say get what you want because, you know, when I was younger, it's like all about the man. You know, that's kind of how I grew up. It's like you want to please the man. And it's like, I'm supposed to be feeling good and busting in that too.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Get what you want. Demand what you want. You know what I'm saying? Because you're giving of, you both are giving of yourself. And both that's experience and both of you guys should enjoy it, you know?
Right.
And you're gonna be doing some teaching, cause he don't know how to give you what you want.
I was just
And
about to
usually
say
at
that.
age, they
I was
don't
just
know how
about
to
to
give you
say
what
that.
you want.
I don't
Yeah,
feel
so-
like
We
men
can do
know.
instructions and exercises
Damn
on them.
straight.
so
A
they
lot
can
of
have
men
it.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
A lot of men don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's the
I'm
part.
Not all
can do
men.
it
I'm
Not
gonna
all
say
men.
all men.
Not all men. Because
When we
like I
return from
said,
break, there will be demonstrators.
Now,
Now, here is, that's the spot you're looking for.
This is what the,
Oh, Miss Felicia Newton said, "Take what you want. Most men like a woman to initiate."
Yes, yes.
break that.
Like, give me the peaches.
Slow it down, a little too low.
Oh, we're gonna get ready to take it out here, guys. Here, we're
Just
gonna
a
get ready to go on break. We're gonna party a little bit. Hey, Clinton Harvey here on the Poetry of Justice Show with JackieRay Phillips on YikesRadio.com. Woohoo! Wild.
Y'all a mess.
That's crazy. That's good though.
Yeah.
Good shock value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yikes.
You having fun, dude? I love it. I love it.
It is.
I'm sorry.